how did you end up on this journey into relationship coaching? What inspired you?
Yeah, I often avoid this question because it's it's actually like a bittersweet for me. Well, it's just like in any field, right? You study it because you're passionate about it, and you study it because your history kind of dictated a lot of why you chose that. Whether it's becoming a detective because something went tragically wrong as a child. So for me, I think that the biggest wounding in my life has been around relationships. So very young, I grew up in a very, I would say, quite dysfunctional family, a middle class, blue collar, which is nothing wrong with that. And from the outside, everybody thought it was a great family. I mean, I came from a pretty small community, so everybody kind of knew everybody. If something went tragically wrong in one's family, you would know about it. It had a small town kind of vibe. Wow. And so, that's really, at the time, I didn't know it as a kid, how dysfunctional it is. You don't really realize that until you get out of your family and you realize what was that. And as you start becoming an adolescent, you started to notice the things that your friends' families did or how they behaved was very different, right? Yeah. So, there was a lot of unhealed trauma in my family, alcoholism, abuse, coming from two narcissistic parents, there was also quite a bit of gaslighting. So making it believe that something was something when it wasn't, right? And so then being able as a child to be trusting of your own experience that was it, right? Or not. And this isn't to say, oh, woe is me. It's just to say that's coming from that and then going into my adulthood and continuing with the things that I learned. There was a lot of yelling growing up. That was the communication style, right? So there's a lot of yelling. There was a lot of blaming in coming from two narcissistic parents, not technically diagnosed, but because that has a spectrum as well. So I got very used to being yelling and blaming and having big emotions and not knowing how to communicate that in a very effective way. And that's just what I learned from growing up and being able to just suck it up and not have any repair, right? But then go back when things settled like nothing happened. And I'm sure people can relate, like a lot of families do that. It's just like they have these blowouts and then, the ashes settle and you just go back. But all along, all that does is build up years and years of resentment. And until there's proper repair, it just lives with resentment and not knowing how to repair. And so we take that, and I took that into my relationship. And also, a lot of shame that came out of growing up in this environment, right? So working through that. And as an adult, I finally realized that I was having unsuccessful relationships. And what I mean, I would have some good relationships that were long-term, but like I didn't have the skills to be able to really grow in love and move past what I call the second stage of relationship, which is when we start to trigger each other and we act out these behaviors, it trigger our partners, and we become in this loop of continuous triggering. Yeah. So I could never move past that stage. I always say awareness is the first step. Like, okay, this isn't working. I have some part in this. I never learned that because when you're constantly being blamed in that kind of family dynamic, it's really hard to take ownership because you're constantly being blamed, right? So
constantly on the defensive.
Yeah.
Constantly on the defensive. So I had to learn first through awareness that these patterns are not serving me anymore. This is not serving me. This isn't who I am, and this isn't the direction I want to go with my life.